Episode 30. This episode brought to you by reelsandtackle.com, your family-owned online tackle store.
Welcome to the Telltale Fisherman podcast, where avid anglers share the story of their best fishing day ever to inspire yours. Now it's time for another epic adventure. So here's your host, John Woodson.
Okay, welcome to the show. Today's guest is Ryan Spuhler, coming to us from Pennsylvania. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks.
Man, it's great to have you on here, and I understand your forte is kayak bass fishing, and I'm looking forward to talking with you about that here some more later. But before we jump into the fishing, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I work as a local archivist for the local county government up in Pennsylvania, and I basically just spend my time trying to figure out how to catch bass out of little plastic boats.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing that?
I've been fishing out of a kayak for about 3 years. It started when there was this little creek that my one friend and I used to go to and huck a few spinner baits for some smallmouth, and they actually closed it for lead removal. I guess there was a lot of pollution in the creek. So, so I kind of had the bug bit me, and I looked for the next affordable way to get off the bank, and that was with a kayak.
Mm-hmm.
I bought my first one and then moved on up to a Hobie. So.
Oh yeah, no, and for those who don't have a Hobie or haven't seen one of those, they have the pedal drive system that allows you to fish hands-free. Talk about that a little bit and how you use that in fishing.
Well, it's actually really great. My first kayak was a Wilderness Systems tarpon 10-foot long kayak where I had to paddle and fish, and that would get pretty difficult when you're close to the bank, fishing shallow, and the wind would blow. You have to put the rod down and paddle to get in position and then cast again. But moving on to the pedal kayak, it's great. You can fish hands free. Paddle. You don't have to paddle. You just pedal hands free. It's great. I mean, you can stay in position and cast all day long. Your arms don't get tired. It's a whole nother world.
Yeah. I mean, for a fisherman not to be able to hold his rod in his arms all the time is a very difficult thing. And I use one of those myself for kayak fishing, and man, it just makes all the difference, especially in wind, like you were talking about.
Yeah, I was just out this past weekend, and the wind was howling pretty good, and I had no problem staying where I wanted to fish, and caught a few good ones that day.
Oh, cool. So, well, tell us a little bit about where you fish up there. Do you have lakes, rivers? Where are your favorite places to go out and kayak fish?
We have actually a couple of really good rivers. Being from southeastern PA, our waters are very pressured. So the best places to go for the trophy, smallmouth bass, and that would definitely be the Susquehanna River.
Okay.
But I've never been on there. With the pedal kayak, that's the one downside to it. The fins that hang out of the bottom, if you hit a rock that you wouldn't see, or so I don't ever go on there. I mainly fish the lakes around north of Philadelphia. It's pretty great. They're big. They're pressured. There's a lot of watercraft on there.
Really?
But I said, it's mainly, it's packed. You never get the lake to yourself. You can't even get maybe 200 feet of water alone to yourself until now that the recreational boaters are going away, and the recreational fishermen that don't fish all year, they're pretty much done for the season up here. So now it's starting to get, a little less crowded, a little more relaxed.
Yeah, that was the next thing I wanted to ask you is about your seasons up there. Can you fish a kayak year round?
You can, but with the 120 rule, the water temperature and air temperature, if it's under, when you add them together, if it's under 120, you should really have a dry suit because of hypothermia.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have the right gear, you can do it all year. I just purchased my first dry suit. Actually 2 weeks ago it came. So I'm prepared to do it all year. Not if it's like snowing, but
Right. Being from Florida, I don't ever have a much of an issue with that 120 rule, and I hadn't heard that one before. But that's good to know. But yeah, I mean, we kind of have the same thing here. We get a lot of people out on watercrafts and things during the summer, and but wintertime, all that goes away when the water cools down, and you can do some of the best fishing at that time of year around here. Less lake pressure, and that sounds like it's kind of the same thing you have there, but more so because most of the anglers are off the water at that time.
Yeah. It's like I said, a lot of people pack it in as soon as school. Our school year starts. I guess the kids go back to school in the end of August, and that's usually that's pretty much the nail in the coffin for the summer boat anglers and all that. So, that's when it really clears off.
Talk to me a little bit about how you change your tactics as the water cools down. Have you found you like certain baits at certain times of the year?
I've been having, I obviously have, like every fisherman on the planet, thousands of different lures. Mm-hmm. Anything that looks cool, I buy it. Usually never use it. For some reason this year, I have not gone away from jigs and Ned rigs. That's all I've been really using this all year, all calendar year this year.
Okay.
Which is actually surprising. Started using crankbaits in the fall. That's when usually the crankbait bite kicks in. But this whole fall so far, no fish except on micro jigs and Ned rigs. That's all.
So what was that second one you said? A Ned rig?
A Ned rig. It's like the Midwest rig, I think they call it. Z-Man Fishing Products. They make these shroom Z heads that are this little jig head with a hook, and then they also sell these 3-inch, I think they're actually 2.75-inch long rubber worms that you put on, and it's so simple and stupid it shouldn't work, but it does work. I mean, it's blowing my mind all year. I've been, if I'm not catching anything, I'll switch to one of those. Boom, fish.
Wow, well,
it's wild.
That's a good tip. I had not heard of that one yet, and I'm always looking for the next best bait to add to my thousands of lures that I have in my box too. So I may have to give that one a try.
Yeah, they are. I can't tell you how hilarious they look, and you'd look at them and say, "I can't catch a fish," but it does. It absolutely does.
Hey, as long as the fish like it, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah. It's I buy these lures and it's like, and I know they're great, and I've used them in the past, like crankbaits, and I'm about to retire everything but that.
It's amazing how you get confidence in a bait like that, isn't it? You start fishing a bait and have great success, and it just seems like, man, right. That's the one.
Like I said, I always use jigs. I was always a jig guy. I was always a chatterbait guy, which is also kind of like a jig anyways.
Yeah.
But this year it's just been these stupid Ned rigs, and of course the jig, but 90% of the time it's a Ned rig. It actually blew my mind.
Well, you've convinced me. I'm gonna have to go out and try that one for sure.
Yeah, the bass love them. They absolutely love them. From the river to the lake. I have friends that exclusively fish rivers, and they throw Ned rigs pretty much. Whopper ploppers and Ned rigs. That's all they say.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of the whopper ploppers. Yeah. Now you mentioned smallmouth is primarily what you fish for. Now, do you have largemouth up there as well?
Well, I primarily fish for largemouth in the lakes.
Oh, okay, you do. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. The lakes where the largemouth live up here. And the rivers have the smallmouth mainly.
Gotcha.
However, my home lake has some smallmouth in there. I've only ever caught one in 3 years. It's always been largemouth. So those are, primarily river fish.
Okay.
Up here anyways.
All right. When we get back, Ryan is going to share an epic freshwater kayak fishing story with us. Stay tuned. As avid anglers, our mission is always fishing. But at the Telltale Fisherman, our mission is to find the most epic fishing stories from around the world. And to do that, we need your help. When you share us on social media, that's like casting a line in a new pond, lake, or ocean. where the next trophy fishing story awaits. Go to tell.fish, click one of our social media icons, and help cast the net for our next inductee to the Telltale Hall of Fame. Okay, we are back with Ryan Spuhler, and before the break, we were talking about some of the bass action he gets up there and different lures he uses, but now we want to talk about his most epic day of bass fishing. So set the stage for us, Ryan.
Well, it was my home lake. It happened on Blue Marsh Lake outside of Reading, Pennsylvania. Pretty much everything I do, I did everything the same I do every weekend, and that's load up the car, throw the kayak on top, and go out looking for that elusive 20-plus inch largemouth bass.
Mm-hmm.
Being in southeastern PA, everything's pressured, so our lakes, a great day of fishing is a bunch of 14 to 16 inch fish.
Okay.
The white whale is, for any kayak guy, I guess would be the 20-plus inch largemouth bass.
Right.
Never caught one. To be honest, never even seen one caught amongst my friends and I down here, or up here rather. So went out looking for one, like we do every time. But
right.
I was working the bank with my confidence bait, this little jig with a trailer,
mm-hmm.
and I hooked into one. And jokingly, I yelled over to my buddy I was fishing with. I said, "I caught a 20-inch largemouth." Of course, I'm reeling him in. The line break. Took the lure with it. It was in it, So there I went. And, that was it. I looked at my friend and I said, "You know what?" I said, "We should just pack it in." Or that was my one and done for the day. That was pretty much it.
Could you tell that was a pretty big fish, the one you hooked? Or, sometimes it's hard to tell exactly.
Yeah, he came. The reason I knew he was big, I thought it was a stick, to be honest with you. I thought I hooked into a big log that didn't fight at all. Then I brought it. He was right next to the kayak too. I could see him.
You saw him
laid
okay.
out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw him. I grabbed went to get my net because I thought I would need it, and boom, the knot broke, and he took everything with him. And it's like, oh, come on. And at this particular lake, they do Tuesday night bass boat fishing tournaments over the summer months.
Okay.
And to show you how pressured this lake is, if you bring your 3 fish limit, you're going to win. It doesn't matter how big the fish are. If you get 3 bass, you're going to win.
Wow, that's tough, huh?
Yeah. So that's why I said that was it. That was my one for the day. I'm done. I'm going to quit. And I saw he jumped out of the water next to my kayak to try to throw the hook that was still, the jig hook that was still in its mouth. And I said, "Man, that was it, gone, absolutely gone." And he took my lure with me, and I only have one more left.
And he had to jump to taunt you afterwards too.
Exactly, it was it was bad. And my fishing partner, he was like, "Oh, let's just keep going for like another hour." I said, "All right." So I'm working the same bank, casting the cover with the exact same lure, exact same color, same size jig, all that, and I hooked into another fish. And the guy I was fishing with, he said, "That's the same fish." And I said, "There's no way that a fish that big in this lake would hit the same exact lure literally 5 minutes later." And he said, "That's the same fish. That's the same fish." And I said, "Yeah, okay." This fish, though, it didn't fight that much. It was like it was already worn out. So I netted him, landed it. Everything was all good. And he was massive. He was big, and I took the measuring device out, and I laid it next to him kind of to see, how long he was.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Holy crap, it's a 21-inch bass."
Nice.
And obviously, my white whale, so I'm shaking a little bit. And my partner said, "Let's go to this takeout." There's like a little takeout that we always get out to eat lunch and go to the bathroom and that.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you can put it on the board, take your photos of proof. That way, you're not doing it on the water where he could flop out.
Right.
And I said, "All right, fair enough. Let's do it." So I was pedaling, he was paddling, and obviously I was faster than him because Hopi makes the quick kayak.
Yes, they do.
So I got there, hopped out, measured it up, took my photo. It was 21 inches. And in Pennsylvania, we have these catch and release awards that you get. They're called citations, that if you catch a large fish, you send your photo in, and the state sends you like a little certificate, So yeah. I said, "Holy crap, it's my first citation fish." So he was naturally excited for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, holding it up, taking the photos with it. And as I'm doing that, he keeps insisting it's the same fish. And I said, no, it's absolutely not the same fish. I said, relax, it's not. Well, as I'm holding it up to take a photo, I drop the fish. And as he hits the ground, he spits out my other lure. So it was indeed the same fish. And I got my lure he took back.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, it's crazy hard to get a big fish to hit in the first place, but to come back and hit the same lure again, when he's still got one stuck in his mouth, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, it was. And I didn't believe it. I was swearing up and down. I said, that's not the same fish. And as soon as I picked him up, there it was. It just rolled right out. I couldn't believe it.
I was going to say, have you ever caught the same bass twice before like that? Did that ever happen to you?
I've caught the same bass off the same bed for the last 3 years in a row, but there was a year difference between.
Right. Yeah, never
so
a couple minutes apart.
That. Right, and for a fish as old and as wise as he was, to hit the same lure.
Wow.
Honestly, it had to be less than 5 minutes. I mean, it literally, I tied the same lure on, and with the wind drifting, like I said, it was less than 5 minutes, and he hit it again.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Do you have any theory on how that came to be, why he would hit the same lure twice and not be totally turned off?
I guess he wanted me to get that citation. That's the only thing I could guess. I mean, it was, and I wouldn't believe it. Like, if a friend told me this, I wouldn't believe it either if I didn't have witnesses.
Right.
That, saw the lure come out and all that. I actually have both lures. They're still in my car. I won't ever fish with them again. They're retired. I just haven't brought them in yet.
There you go. I like that. Retire the big lure. So you just got a length measurement on him. Did you get a weight or estimate the weight on that fish at all?
I guess the length estimate's around 5+ pounds. Nothing. The bass guys catch those all the time. It's not like a massive fish, the bass boat anglers and all that. But kayak guys, it's pretty big.
Yeah. Well, what's a really big bass for up there? I mean, is a 10-pounder pretty rare in your cooler waters? I'm
pretty sure the state record's only 11.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So a 5-pounder is a really nice fish up there.
It is up here, yeah, and it really was a good fish for our area. You go down to Kentucky and all that, they'd laugh at you and say we catch these all day. But up here it's a pretty big deal. I think obviously kayak bass guys, we never really carry scales. It's always the hog trough measuring board.
Right.
That we have to use for tournaments and that. So that's why it's mainly a length thing. But one of the guys at the same lake that he fishes out of a bass boat, I think the largest one, and as far as I know, he has no photo proof. He claims he had a 24-inch bass.
Oh, wow.
But like I said, there's no proof.
Mm-hmm.
There's no photos, so who knows how true that is.
They tend to grow after you get off the water, don't they?
They do. They do.
And actually,
right. And I know my fish, when I sent the photo to the state to get the citation, it actually grew it grew a quarter of an inch because it was actually 20.75 inches, and the state on the certificate wrote 21. So. Oh,
there you go. Then it must be right.
Yeah. So
that you've had yours validated by the state, so you can't be wrong with that fishtail.
Right. But it was over 20, and 20 inches was the citation requirement for catch and release.
Right. Well, man, how crazy and cool is that had their heart broken and then you mended all in 5 minutes time by the same fish.
Yeah. And maybe it's my knot tying skill that's terrible that I lost in the first time. I lost 2 other big fish the same exact way. Actually both were last year. So maybe I should just figure out how to tie my knots better so the lure won't break. I mean, that could be too. It could be user error.
Well, the fish always make us guess about that kind of thing, because when you break one off, man, you're racking your brain trying to figure out what did I do. What could I have done better? But you got it right the second time on that fish.
Yeah, I did. Well, he was probably tired out from the first one, so maybe I had to hook and slice to land him.
Well, whatever it takes, you got it done. So
yeah, right.
Oh man, that's cool. Well, Ryan, that is a really neat story, man, and I really appreciate you coming on today to share it with us. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
There are so many amazing places to fish. It's doubtful any of us fishing junkies will ever be able to hit them all, but we can certainly do the next best thing. Experience them through the eyes of fellow avid anglers who share their most epic adventures with us. Sign up to be our guest on the show today at www.tell.fish/guest.
This has been the Telltale Fisherman Podcast. Thanks for sharing another great tale with us. Be sure to check out the show notes page for more info on today's show and the gear we talked about. Keep those lines tight, and we'll catch you next time right here on the Telltale Fisherman Podcast.